Morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. How's everybody doing? This is Morning with Khalid, the real estate bull. We're going to get into a bunch of things today, but today we're going to get into specifically the common risks involved in real estate. When you go out and you buy real estate, I want you guys to know the risks. Once you know the risks, you kind of know what to look out for. If you know what to look out for, then you'll make a better decision on things to buy. So we're going to talk about a plethora of things. And while a good many millionaires would agree that their fortunes were made in real estate, the honest ones will tell you also that they probably lost fortunes in real estate along the way. This is a risky business, and every property purchase doesn't always pan out to be a successful investment. Now, there are many risks involved in real estate investing, and you would be going to battle unprepared if you didn't take a moment to carefully study these risks and work to avoid them when planning your property investment strategy. So I want to put y'all up on game as far as real estate goes, different strategies that you could use, and kind of give my commentary on those things as a realtor, investor, and property management. Now, unfortunately, there are very few one size fit all risks for real estate investing, and each type of investing is inherently different. This means that each type of real estate investment will involve a new set of risks. Now, below, after this, you're actually going to find a brief overview of the different styles of investing and common risks that are involved in each. So, the first thing that we're going to talk about, if you want to know why I'm kind of going back and forth, is because I have Facebook and YouTube here, and then over here I have Instagram. So, I kind of want to connect with both of y'all. All right. So, the first thing that we're going to talk about is rental properties. Now, this type of investing offers some risks that are unique and some that are also risks when investing in other properties like lease to own or, as they say, rent to own as well. First and foremost, the risk of failing to make a profit. That's the first risk. When you're doing rental properties, the first risk is the risk of not making a profit. If the profit in question cannot achieve an adequate monthly income to cover the expenses of operating the property, then it's not a solid investment. What does that mean? It means it needs the cash flow. It needs the cash flow from day one, not speculation. Oh, well, if the rents go up or if the price of if the appreciation goes up. No, it needs to rent cash flow from day one. So what you'll do is you'll take your expenses, take your mortgage, your insurance. There's a list of expenses. I can send it to you if you want me to. But you take all those expenses and then you see how much you're going to make or what's your projected income. A good website to go to is Rent-O-Meter. Rent-O-Meter is a good website to try to project what you think the rents are going to be in that area. Also, talk to a property manager. Talk to a property manager of what those rents are going to be. Also, all right. Other risks include the risk of getting bad tenants. This is particularly hard on first-time investors because first-time investors don't know what they're doing a lot of times. So finding good tenants is a skill. It's definitely a skill. Now, bad tenants are costly and in some cases destructive, which leads to a greater expense. All right. But so you really want to beware of bad tenants. Now, I have a company, I find tenants. I have a property finder company with my property management company. So if somebody needs, shameless plug, if somebody wants to manage on their own, if a person wants to manage a property on their own, but they have a 9 to 5 and they really want a good tenant, I'll find a tenant for people. That's the tenant finding business. Okay, so I'll find you won't have to do all that, even though if you want to manage it yourself, I'll find the tenant. And if you want me to manage it, I'll manage it also. But finding good tenants, what you're really looking at is you're looking at their past behaviors. And this is for I'm just giving game to those who want to find their own tenants. If you want to find your own tenant, what you're going to be doing is you're really going to be looking for their past behaviors, because a lot of people, their past behaviors are indicative of their future behaviors. Not in every case, but in a lot of cases. So you want to look at their past. What I do is I run a credit check. I also run a criminal background check, and I also run an eviction check. I want to see what the person has done in the past. What I also do is I make them verify their income. So I have a system that goes into their bank account. Now, some people are apprehensive about it. Some people are, oh, well, no, I don't want you to go on my bank securities. Listen, I understand, but your application is going to be incomplete without this. And if you don't want to do this, there's a whole lot of other paperwork that I need. Um, so you're going to look at, well, this is what I do. Okay. I look at all of that. I also look at their employment. And if I can, I try to call to verify that they're employed wherever they say that they're employed. So I'll find the phone number. I'll ask the phone number to the manager. Some of your big corporations, they have HR companies that you have to go through. So I will call them, make sure that they're employed. Also, I'm looking for 3 character witnesses. Now, of course, the person is going to give me people that think highly of them. But if somebody cannot give me 3 people that think highly of them, that's a huge red flag. And most important, I'm looking for the past landlord's number. So I want the past landlord's number so I can speak with them. And I'll ask them different questions, because you could, I mean, it's among the mental possibilities that you'll have a landlord that just wants to get rid of the person. So he might game you up and say, ah, man, listen, that person, she's awesome, but they might be a scumbag because they want to get rid of them. So I look at that. It's really, if you look at the total picture, it is hard for a bad tenant to get by you, but it's not impossible. It's not impossible. And the thing about bad tenants, and this goes to all you landlords, the thing about bad tenants is most of the time they don't get better. They don't get, or tenants in general, they don't get better. So the thing about it, or the trick, is you have to set it up because you have the most leverage before you give them the keys. You have the most leverage before you give them the keys. Once you give them the keys, that's it. Now they have all the leverage. So I would implore you to employ a professional property manager, but you also have to watch out for the property managers also, because you don't want somebody that's just going to stick anybody in your home. I'm actually I do some investing out of state, and I did my best to pick a good property manager, but I feel like the property manager just stuck somebody in my property, and on one of my properties, we're having issues now, and it's only been the second month. So now I tried this once for my out of town investing, but what I'm going to do from here on is I'm going to do the screening of the tenants. I'm going to screen all of the tenants because, matter of fact, this is my second time having issues where I didn't do the screening. So I think I have a good screening process, and I probably should have really trusted that, even if it was out of town, even if I was paying somebody else. But now I'm going to definitely trust it. All right. So also with rental properties, vacancies are another rental property risk. These properties are only costing money. These properties are only costing money as they sit empty rather than earning money as they were intended to. Short turnovers are in your best interest, as are long-term tenants. So vacancies is when your property is not being rented out. So if your property is not being rented out, you still have to pay the mortgage. And that was the big issue. Of course, that was the big issue during this eviction moratorium that we had for a long time. Those properties still cost the money, but those landlords weren't getting the income from that. So they were losing out. You want short turnovers. A way to have short turnovers is when you know the person is going to leave a month or 2 months before they leave. Start putting your property on the market to let people know that it's available and why the person is in the property. Make sure that you're renting it out or showing the property. Make sure you're showing the property to people. So that's the best way to have short-term turnover. And you got to be talking to your clients, or your clients. They are your clients, but they're your tenants. You have to be talking to your tenants, okay? And you really want to look for long-term tenants. Some short-term tenants are students. Students are short-term tenants. They're only going to be there for a year or two, and then they're going to leave. So some people like them because you can charge a premium, but some don't like them because it's a high turnover. So it just really depends. So we just finished rental properties. Now we're going to talk about flipping properties. I know everybody loves to flip. I get calls all the day. Hey, I want to flip a property. I want to flip a property. I want to flip a property. I know this is very hot. And HGTV, when you watch that, it looks so easy. It looks so easy. They come in, they buy the home. It seems like they always get the home. And there's some things that need to be fixed up. They fix it up and they make a boatload of money. It definitely sounds awesome. So this is one of the most enjoyable types of property investments for many hands-on investors, because there's a difference between a hands-on investor and a passive investor. A passive investor may just sit back and let somebody else do it, but for hands-on investors, this is one of the most enjoyable investment properties. This allows the investor to roll up their sleeves and take action in making a masterpiece that will eventually bring them serious revenue, or at least they hope it's going to bring them serious revenue. This is also one of the most riskiest investments, particularly when buying a property at the right price in this seller's market. So right now, across the United States, for the most part, we're in a seller's market. Flipping a property is super risky because you need to buy it right. You need to buy it right. What does that mean? That you got to buy it for the right price. And it's particularly hard in a seller's market. And plus, money is cheap. Money is super cheap. Everybody sees that interest rates are super low. So that means that money is super cheap. So when money is super cheap, they say that this is in the investment realm. They say when money is cheap, the deals are hard. When the money is hard, the deals are everywhere. Okay, so when the money is expensive, the deals are everywhere. But when money is cheap, then the deals are hard to come by, and that's what we're looking at. It still can be done, but it definitely still can be done. But it's not as easy as it was in 2008 or 2009, 2010. Okay, so let's get back to the risks. The risks are simple but often overlooked, and they can have a significant impact on the overall success or failure of the project. So, first of all, the biggest risk is paying too much for the property. That's the biggest risk, because you can't do nothing about that. Once you bought it, it's yours. That's it. So the biggest risk is paying too much for the property. Other risks include underestimating the repair cost. This also is very, very important. Underestimating the cost of the repairs. Now, the repairs are a moving target. And somebody take this from me who's an investor. You really want to, if you're going to over or underestimate, you really want to overestimate the cost of repairs. Because without fail, the general contractor will come in there and he'll tell you a cost. He'll tell you a cost. So he'll come in and say, hey, I'm looking at all this, boom, boom, boom. This is going to take X amount. What happens most of the time is change orders. Change orders is when the general contractor or your subcontractor gets in there. They told you one price, but now they have to change that price. It happens without fail on every project that I've seen. They go in there, they start doing the repair, open up other things, and now there's a change order. So now that's adding to your bottom line. Also, another risk is overestimating the ability of the investor to do the work himself. So some people say, I can do this work, or I can do these floors, or I can do the wall. And if that's your specialty, awesome. But if it's not, don't overestimate your ability. And then also, what you don't want to do is you want to really look at your time. What's your time worth? Okay, what's your time worth? My father, and I'm sure he won't mind me saying this. I don't know if he'll ever see this, but he's one where he'll do all the work himself. And I try to talk to him, and I'm like, Dad, listen, your business is something else. Why don't you spend time on your business and let somebody else do it? Okay, for example, he just fixed his garage up. He fixed his garage up and he did an awesome job. He did an awesome job. But I try to talk to him and like, hey, why don't you go do your business? Pay somebody to do that. Because that time that you're wasting putting up this garage, you could be doing your business, getting better at your business, and you probably will make more money at your business versus trying to be a contractor. The contractor is going to do it better, he's going to do it faster, and he probably not going to do it cheaper, but when you factor in the cost of your time, it probably will be cheaper. He didn't listen to me, but you definitely want to kind of weigh that. Okay, your business, maybe you make $200 an hour, but if you go and you, for example, build a shed and you do it yourself, that might be $20 hour of work, $20 an hour work. So you're trading $200 an hour for $20. Just keep this in mind, all right? Also, it's taking too much time. I had my first flip. My first flip that I did, I lost money. And I didn't lose money because we bought the property wrong. No, the property was subject to. I'll talk about that later. That's beyond this scope. But we did a subject to basically taking on the woman's payment. So it wasn't no money out of cost. We just had to pay her mortgage. So it didn't cost us too much. We didn't go over the budget as far as the repairs. And we let somebody else do it. So I was doing my business and I wasn't in there with a hammer. I let somebody else do it. What killed it was that it took too much time. That's what killed us. So most calculators, as far as investment calculators, have the time on there. Be very conscious of that. And be on the contractors about the time. Hey, this needs to be done by this time. Make sure you're on them about it. That's this time kills people. It absolutely kills people. Okay. Also, one of the big risks as far as flipping is experiencing a downturn in the market. So you could project your numbers to be X amount, but then there's a downturn in the market. That downturn in the market is going to take your value with it. Okay. Also, making the wrong judgment call for the neighborhood. You may be looking at a neighborhood and be, okay, well, this neighborhood is about to come up, and it may never come up. It may never turn. So you're basing your numbers on this neighborhood turning, and it never turns. Also being overly ambitious and getting greedy. Greed. Just, I mean, people. What are some things that people do because they're greedy? They may do the finishings very cheap. The finishes of the house they may do very cheap, or they may, in instead of hiring a realtor to sell the property, they sell it on their own. And by them selling it on their own, it sits and sits and sits and sits because it's not being marketed properly. So there's a million and one reasons why, but a big risk is a person being greedy and being over ambitious. Like, okay, well, I'm going to buy this whole block, and they're a first time home buyer. I mean, a first time investor, first time flipping, and they're like, okay, I'm going to do 4 or 5 projects at one time. Slow down, boss, slow down. Okay, do 1 or even 2, but see how that goes first. A lot of times, what I tell people, and I tell all my investors this who are first time investors, don't do a flip for your first investment. What I tell them to do is buy a turnkey property. A turnkey property is where the rehab is already done. The rehab, so there's no repairs that need to be done. I advise them strongly, buy a turnkey property first. If you buy a turnkey property first, then you'll get the feel of buying an investment, number one, and also being a landlord to make sure that you like it. Because some people don't like being a landlord. Some people hate being a landlord. So you really want to see that with a turnkey property that's cash flowing from day one versus you're getting a hard money loan. Once you get a hard money loan, then you're paying on that hard money loan, which is probably an interest only loan. And then you're doing this rehab. You do this big rehab and you're fighting with the contractors and you put yourself through all this stress because it's very, very stressful. You're putting yourself through all of this stress. And then you finally get the property the way that you want it, and you don't like being a landlord. So you went through all that and you don't even like being a landlord. No. First time investors, I always say, do a turnkey property first. Once you do a turnkey property first and you like it and you see that you like being an investor and a landlord, then let's move up. Step after step after step. You don't go from first grade to fifth grade. You go first grade, second grade, third grade. Okay. Now we're going to talk about your personal residence. Personal residence means where you live at. Now keep in mind that your personal residence or your personal home is essentially an investment. The intention is that your home will gain in value over time and the equity in your home will build as you age. Now, there are risks involved in this transaction as well. Buying a home that is on a borderline, um, buying a home that is on a borderline area or one that is not showing obvious signs of growth is one of the biggest risks. So a borderline area may be on a borderline area that's the hood and that's being gentrified. So you buy on that border, like, okay, the gentrification is going to come down, and it never comes down. So that's a risk. This can make your home a burden rather than an investment that you intended it to be. Other risks involved is becoming involved in a loan situation that is not beneficial. Okay. For example, having an arm, and I'm not saying in all situations, because in some situations, these these loans are okay. These loans are beneficial. But an ARM, which is an adjustable rate mortgage, or an unreasonable balloon payment. So a balloon payment is, for example, if you get hard money. A lot of those attached to balloon payments. So it may be a 5-year loan, and they're going to say, okay, you get this hard money, which is the most expensive type of loan that you can get for the most part, but it's the easiest loan for you to get. So that's why a lot of people use it for investment because they're not going to have it for a long term. But they may say, okay, we're going to loan you this money for 2 years. And then at the end of that 2 years, you're going to owe us, for example, the other $90,000. So it's a balloon payment. So the strategy for that is you're going to refi before it gets to that. Also, adjustable rate mortgage. In this particular loan environment, why somebody would get an adjustable rate, I don't know, but I'm sure there's people out there that get it. An adjustable rate is you have a 5-year adjustable, 10-year adjustable. So if you put an adjustable rate mortgage up against a 30-year mortgage, the interest rate is probably going to be lower. The interest rate is going to be lower, but instead of it being locked in for 30 years, like a 30-year fixed loan, it's only going to be 5. So a lot of people do this. This was very popular back in the day, 2018, 2008, 2009, for people just to get in the home. And this is one of the factors of the crash because people were getting in these homes for super cheap. Companies like some people that went out of businesses, I remember, it's like Countrywide. If there used to be a saying, if you were breathing, they would give you a loan. So anyway, I'm not going to go too much into that. So perhaps to bring it all home, perhaps the biggest risk of all when purchasing personal residence as an investment is failing to get a proper home inspection that could rule out potentially costly and even dangerously problems within the house that you purchased for you and your family. All right. Toxic mold is one problem that can be easily that comes to mind that most proper home inspections can easily rule out. Others include structural problems that are costly to repair and just dangerous stuff that if you leave, it's going to be costly in the future. Each of these risks should be considered before an offer is made on any property. So I always, even in this seller's market, a lot of people are foregoing the inspection. I always strongly encourage my home buyers to get a home inspection. I encourage them all of the time because you want to know, okay, what am I getting myself into? Now, even with a home inspector, he's not going through walls. So there is an inherent risk of buying a home. And know that it's not going to be perfect, but you're the owner. You're the owner. So as the owner, there's different responsibilities that you have that you take on. So you own that property. So now you own that property, the good and the bad. And there's only so much that you can do to protect yourself from repairs that are going to need to be done with the home. Okay. So for those seeking to turn impressive profits in short order, real estate is one in which this can be accomplished. All right. It is in your best interest, however, to be aware of the risks that are involved and take careful steps to minimize those risks. Taking these steps now may cost a little more upfront, but in many cases, it pays off. All right. And a lot of times it outweighs the expenses out the end. So do your due diligence. When you're buying a home, do your due diligence, whether that's a personal property or investment. But all of this is to say that when you're buying a home, you should be represented. You should be represented by a realtor. So don't go on. Find a realtor. All right. And if you're selling a home, use a realtor. You need a professional, just like in a court of law. In a court of law, you can represent yourself, but is that the best thing? Probably not. Well, it's the same thing in these transactions, in real estate transactions. You could search for a house by yourself. You could sell the house by yourself. But at the end of the day, is it the best thing to do? My opinion is no. And if you want to talk about the cost, I think a realtor pays for himself over and over during the transaction. You do what you do good and let that realtor do his thing. Let him do what he does good. All right, y'all, that's it. I gave y'all a lot as far as the common risks involved in real estate, but at the end of the day, it's still one of the top investment vehicles. It's Khalid Nathan Alim. If you're looking to buy a home, sell a home, or invest in real estate, I got you. Also have a property management company and also a credit repair company. Got an awesome program to take you from a low score into a home loan. Okay. All right, y'all. I'm out. Have a good day.